Hello everyone, Charles Watts here. It's Tuesday. I hope you're enjoying the start of your week. Of course, the last week of Premier League season 2022-23. It felt ages ago. I tell you what, randomly, I wasn't planning to start the video off like this, but randomly, I was watching TV yesterday and they showed the Antonio Conte, Thomas Tuchel fight at full time. The classic, that brilliant handshake when they refused to let go of each other's hands. And I thought, when was that? That was like 2 seasons ago. And it's like, no, it wasn't. That was this season. It just feels ages away. There's been so much that's gone on. I just couldn't believe that. I was like, oh my God, that was actually this season. So much has changed. Pretty much everyone you saw in that camera shot during that fight, Tuchel, Conte, there was all the coaching staff. There was Jorginho was there in the Chelsea shirt. It was like everyone who was there isn't either any of those clubs anymore. It's just pretty mad how football goes. Anyway, I wasn't planning to start the video off like that. So, sorry about that. So talk about Arsenal, we'll look at some comments from Granit Xhaka. I'm sure you've probably seen them by now. If you haven't, we'll go over those interesting comments. We'll look at the latest when it comes to Granit ahead of potentially his last game of his Arsenal career this weekend. We'll talk a little bit about Declan Rice. We'll talk about Newcastle qualifying for the Champions League, what that could mean as well. And we'll talk about some other Champions League stuff when it comes to Arsenal. So plenty to get over in this video. Let's start with Granit Xhaka, who some fresh quotes came out after I recorded yesterday's video. Some more quotes came out from Granit, really interesting ones about his future and what he hopes will happen in the next few days before that game against Wolves on Sunday. Now, we know that Bayer Leverkusen are in talks with Arsenal about a deal for Granit Xhaka. We know that is heading in the right direction. As far as I'm aware, nothing has been done, as in confirmed and signed when it comes to Granit and a possible move to Bayer Leverkusen, but those talks are still ongoing to try and come to a quick resolution. He certainly wants quick resolution because this is what he had to say. He said, and he was speaking to Simon from the Standard, who caught up with him in the mix zone. I wasn't in the mix zone after the game on Sunday because I was Saturday. I was in the press conference with Mikel. Simon from the Standard was out talking to some of the players, and Granit stopped as he always does. He's going to be missed if he does go in terms of journalists and getting people at the mix zone, because most people just walk by and don't want to talk to you, but Granit always talks. He's very good about that. And when he talks a lot of sense. And this is what he had to say. He said, "You will know next week for sure what is going on with his future. I think the fans deserve that, and I think I do myself as well. We have one more week in this Premier League season. The first thing is I want to enjoy it, and for sure you guys will know next week what happens with my future." He then talked about other stuff, and he said, "Look, this is what I said when I speak about special, what I have been in these 3 years and how I come back and my turnaround. Maybe it's the first in the history of the Premier League. It makes me proud. It makes me happy as well. This is my story. This is my path. I'll be thankful for the fans because how they treat me after this, I didn't expect it, if I'm honest. I'm thankful for that, and I want to give them something back, maybe for my last game on Sunday." Now, Granit clearly wants this sorted. He knows that this is probably going to be his last game, and it absolutely makes sense from his point of view. You want it sorted before you go into that match. You want everyone to know what's going on. For a few reasons. It brings sort of clarity to the situation, but it also gives you a chance to say goodbye. And I think he really wants a chance to say a proper goodbye when everyone knows what's happening. I mean, everyone kind of knows, but it would be great for it to actually be confirmed so that he can say his goodbyes. And I think with Granit, it's particularly special because of what's gone on, because of this sort of the stages of his Arsenal career and how it went from the start to the explosion in the middle when it all went so horribly wrong and it looked like he was going out, and the big ugly spat with the fans after the Crystal Palace game, to then turn it around and to leave on a high. I think it's really special for him. It means a lot for him, and he wants to be able to say a proper goodbye on Sunday when everyone knows what's happening and he gets that opportunity. So I can understand why he's he is putting the pressure on. I think that is definitely what he was doing with his comments. It was pretty clear. The fact he's gone so public with this, the fact he's saying you will know next week, that is putting pressure on Arsenal, basically saying, look, get this deal done. Let's get it agreed. Let's find out so that everyone knows what's happening. And I can understand why he wants that. From my point of view, though, from what I understand, I don't think it's done yet. And what are we on Tuesday now? So there's still a few days to go before, the time runs out. But it's pretty much done. It's advanced talks. Everything that you've read is correct. but I don't think anything's been fully agreed and signed off yet. And until that happens, then Arsenal can't really confirm anything. And so you are kind of going to be up against this sort of clock. You're racing against the clock to try and get it done. So it'll be interesting to see if they do. And if they don't, it'll be interesting to see how that sort of plays out on Sunday and how Granit acts at full time on the walk around the pitch afterwards, what he's doing. If it's not confirmed yet, you can't really say a proper goodbye just in case it all goes wrong and you end up staying. It just almost end up looking a little bit stupid. So I can totally understand why he wants it sorted, but it is a business deal at the end of the day. There's a lot of money on the line. You've got to get it right, and Arsenal can't just rush something through just because the player wants to be able to wave goodbye to the fans. So I can understand from both point of views how this is going to play out. But fingers crossed it can all get done, and I hope it does, because it'd be nice for him to be able to say a proper goodbye on Sunday and walk out of the stadium at the end of that match with everyone knowing exactly what is going on. Let me know what you guys think about that before I move on in the comments below about the whole Granit Xhaka situation and how you feel about it heading into Sunday's game. Of course, he will be allowed to leave as part of this big midfield revamp that is going to take place at Arsenal this summer. A few players going to be arriving. A few players could well be going as well. We talked about Gundogan yesterday as a potential incoming player that Arsenal are looking at, and Declan Rice, we all know, it's the worst kept secret. Well, it's not even a secret. Arsenal do want Declan Rice. They're hoping to sign him. There'll be a bid going in at some point fairly soon. That first bid, it hasn't gone in yet, but it's going to happen, and it's just a case of when. Obviously, West Ham have got a lot to play for still. They've got the European competition. I'm pretty sure Arsenal will probably have that in their mind, because they're not going to want to anger West Ham, because this is going to be a difficult deal to get done. The last thing you want to do is annoy the selling club and put yourself in a difficult situation when it comes to getting a deal done. So, Arsenal will be very wary of what's happening at West Ham. They won't want to mess things up and destabilise things before the European final. So I think we'll have to wait until that's out of the way before that first bid properly goes in. And I think that's the right way for Arsenal to go, because they're going to be other clubs involved, and the last thing, as I said, you want to do is annoy the selling club. So you want to keep West Ham on side and keep any negotiations in a good place and not annoy anyone. Bayern Munich are being linked with Declan Rice now over in Germany, that they're going to try and sign him. And this is the thing with Declan Rice. This is why I've always said, if Arsenal sign Declan Rice this summer, I think it's going to be the biggest signing they've made since Sol Campbell. Not just because of the player, but I just think the rival clubs who are going to be in for Declan Rice, the money that's going to have to go down to sign him, just the fact that what it's going to say about where Arsenal are as a club, because there's no way 2 years ago Arsenal would have ever been able to sign Declan Rice in this situation, because of the other clubs who are going to be involved in trying to get him, and because of the finances going to be involved. The fact that they potentially can get it done just shows the progress that has been made. And I think on so many levels, I think it would be a monumental signing for Arsenal. And the fact that you've got Bayern Munich now in the running, we know that Chelsea want him. All the top clubs in England will go for him. I think Newcastle is going to be interesting if they go into the mix. Now they know they're in the Champions League. Will that be another club in the mix for him? We'll have to wait and see. But it's going to be an intriguing one. I do think it's something that's going to be sorted relatively quickly. I don't, not in terms of potentially getting the deal done, but I think Arsenal are going to try and get it done relatively quickly. Like I said, after this European finals out the way, I'd be very surprised if it all goes very silent for too long. I think it's a case of let that final get out the way, don't destabilise things too much, and then bang, try and get this deal over the line as quickly as possible, and try and beat the competition, because there's going to be competition, no doubt about it. And I think it'd be a fantastic signing. I really, really do. I know a lot of people looking at it and think, why? I was talking to a mate who's a Fulham fan the other day, and he was like, why would Arsenal spend £120 million on Declan Rice? I just don't get it. But I just think it'd be transformative. I really do. I think it'd be absolutely world-class signing. 24, he's a leader, he's got so much to his game, he's adding goals to his game, he's box to box, his technical ability is excellent, he's faster than you think, he can drive teams forward. I think it'd be a brilliant signing. I really, really do. And whatever money comes in, so fingers crossed, I'm quite invested in this one. I really, really want Arsenal to sign Declan Rice. As I said there, Newcastle obviously securing Champions League qualification for next season. Congratulations to them. They did that with like one of the weirdest matches I've ever watched yesterday against Leicester. Leicester's tactics was so mad. It almost worked because they almost won it in injury time with pretty much, well, it was their only shot, I think, in the entire game. It was after about 70 minutes they'd had one touch in the Newcastle box. It was mad to watch. It was just like a training exercise, a full-on training exercise. And whether it works for Leicester, they'll find out at the end of the season because they got themselves a point, so they're still in with a chance of surviving. But if they'd have won yesterday, they'd have had a really good opportunity to survive. So it'll be interesting to see if those tactics work out. But for Newcastle, lots of celebrations at the end. Brilliant season for them. Eddie Howe's done a remarkable job there. They're going to finish third, which is incredible. I never ever thought they would at the start of the season. I thought they'd move forward and they'd have maybe get Europa League or something like that. But to get Champions League is great for them. Bit of a worry for the rest because you think, well, that's a sort of fast forward in terms of their progress. We knew it was coming. It's unstoppable. The money that they've got, the owners that they've got, it's unstoppable. They're going to get to the top of English football. Whether they can dethrone Manchester City, I don't know. It's just a case of when and the decisions they make. But they've got the capability to get to the very top of English football and European football now because they're that rich. We saw it with Chelsea. It was unstoppable once Roman Abramovich arrived. We knew it was going to happen. It was a case of when. It happened pretty quickly. We knew it was going to happen when the owners took over at Manchester City. Again, it was just a question of when. It happened, and look at the dominance they've gone on to enjoy. And it will happen with Newcastle. I can't see any reason why it won't, because they've got the money to do it, and they will do it. So it's a bit of a worry that it's happened so quickly, and for Arsenal, it's going to create a bit of competition. You look at what happened when Manchester City got all their money. They ended up picking off Arsenal, didn't they? They took a lot of Arsenal's players. I don't think that's going to happen. I can't see Newcastle coming in and taking players away from Arsenal unless Arsenal want it. They didn't want it really with Manchester City, but ultimately they had to have it done because of the financial position Arsenal were in. They're not in that position now. So if they want to keep players away from Manchester City, they will. Newcastle, they will. But potentially Kieran Tierney might go there, but that'll be with Arsenal's blessing. The big issue is, are Newcastle now going to muscle in on Arsenal's territory when it comes to the transfer market, which, a Declan Rice I talk about there, player I'm sure will be very much of interest to Newcastle. Depends on if he'd want to go there, obviously. But it's just another big player in the pool now that Arsenal are going to have to try and compete with and navigate against, and it's going to be hard to do that because of the money involved. And so it's just showing the strength of the Premier League, how difficult it's going to be going forward. Everyone's getting better, everyone's got more money, and Newcastle are certainly now going to be right up there when it comes to the top dogs. And it's just another obstacle for Arsenal to try and avoid. Champions League wide, Arsenal are in quite a nice position when it comes to next season qualification because of what's happened with Juventus. Now, I don't know if you've seen this, but Juventus they've written, because of all this big scandal, and they were sort of charged and sanctions with financial irregularities, I'll get that word right, and sort of false accounting, that sort of thing. They originally had 15 points docked by the authorities. Then that was on appeal, that points was given back to them. That saw them go up to second in the Serie A, but now they've had 10 points taken off them again, and now they've dropped out of the Champions League places. And you're wondering, why does that matter? Why am I listening to you talk about this? Well, it does matter in terms of Arsenal for next season, because if Juventus finished second and went into the Champions League, they were going to go into pot 2 because of their stronger UEFA coefficient, and that meant that Arsenal were going to be in pot 3 for next season's Champions League draw. So of course you're going to get one of the top teams from pot 1 and one of the top teams from pot 2. But now, I'll get there eventually. I know it sounds a bit complicated, but now, because Juventus have dropped out, that means AC Milan are going to be in the Champions League next season, because of where they're finishing in Serie A. AC Milan's coefficient is not as strong as Arsenal's, which means that AC Milan are going to go in pot 3, and there's going to be a space available in pot 2, and Arsenal now are going to move into that spot because of their higher coefficient, which means it's going to be better for them in the Champions League draw, because they're not going to be in a draw with someone from pot 1 and pot 2, and because they'll be in pot 2 themselves. So they should, on paper, get an easier draw in the Champions League group stages, providing this all stays the same. Whether Juventus appeal and it all changes again, we'll have to wait and see. But for Arsenal, it's definitely a good thing. You would think it's going to give them a nicer Champions League draw in the group stages, which I think we all want. But there's still going to be very good teams in Group 3, so I'm sure whatever happens, it's going to be a difficult group, but it is a nice little boost for them anyway, should it all stay the same, what's going on in Italy at the moment. I got there in the end. I hope that wasn't too complicated, and it did make a bit of sense. All right, thank you for watching, everyone. Anything you've agreed with, disagreed with, anything you want to discuss, please do let me know in the comments below. As always, have a very good day, everyone, and I will speak to you soon.